guys, it's Crazy Comic Lady here, and this was question 15 of the Disney Drawing Challenge, which was to draw any Disney character in a cosplay outfit. So I decided right from when we first put the challenge together that I wanted to do Merida dressed as Kagome from Inuyasha, because they're both archers, so I thought it would kind of fit. So originally my plan was to do both Merida and Kagome like next to each other, back to back, with their weapons and everything in each other's clothing. And then for some reason, when I did get around to doing this picture, I decided that I was just going to do Merida by herself. But the bottom of the picture, after I'd sketched it, looked kind of empty, so I ended up putting Inuyasha in and Shippo. So I like how this turned out. The one thing, I love Inuyasha, it's my favorite anime, and one thing I absolutely love about the anime is it's got such amazing, beautiful backgrounds. In just the whole scenery and the environment is just so beautiful, and it looks like watercolor. I'm not sure if it actually is, it probably is, but it looks like watercolor. So with the markers, I was trying to sort of emulate a watercolor background, and it didn't work out too well with that tree that I started with, because it kind of looks like there isn't enough detail in it. So maybe I should have worked on that a bit more. But I do like kind of how the mountains turned out, because I kind of went over it a lot with pale greys, and it kind of blurred it out to give it that washed out feel. So yeah, I like the way that kind of happened. And I wasn't sure what on earth I was doing with the sky. I was kind of just I kind of just went for it, and it actually came out quite well, considering that I had no idea what I was doing with clouds. So yeah, that was kind of an experiment that kind of worked all right. And that tree on the right, the kind of dead single tree, that was kind of inspired by an artist on Etsy that I really like, called Tea Breaks. I think that's her name anyway, and she does these amazing watercolor ATC landscapes, and they're beautiful. I've got so many of them up on my wall because they're just these beautiful little landscapes, and that's something I really struggle with. So yeah, I really love that artist, and she has this one that I have, which has all these kind of dead trees and everything, which I really like. So that was where the dead tree kind of came from. Man, there were so many greens in this picture. It was insane. I think I ended up using, I think it was 17 greens, blue greens, yellow greens, and 3 blues and a purple, just to try and get all the greens into the background. It was kind of insane, the amount of greens that got used in this picture. But luckily I have quite a lot of green Copics, because that's dating back to the days when I used to do everything with my Letraset markers, and Letraset greens just don't blend or work at all. So I spent a lot of time, greens were the first Copic markers I ever bought, because I couldn't do Letraset markers, so I bought a ton of green Copic markers. So I've got quite a big collection of greens, which is fortunate for this picture. So when I was doing the skin tones on the characters, I was actually trying to do a slightly different shade for each character. I'm not sure if it really picks up that much, but I mean, I was trying to do Inuyasha pretty kind of dark pinky peachy colour, and I was trying to do Shippo a slightly more brown colour, because of course he's a fox, so I was trying to make him look a bit more kind of browny and I guess neutral. And I was trying to do Merida a kind of peachy pink, but that kind of didn't really work. It just looks like a slightly duller version of Inuyasha's skin tone, I think. But yeah, so man, this picture, the background actually only took an hour, but it felt like so much longer, because I was doing it I think it was the 19th of July that I was doing this picture, and it was in the middle of the British heat wave, and it was ridiculous. I was melting by the end of just doing the background, and I came back to it a few days later, and I finished it off in segments. But yeah, I really love Inuyasha. Ever since 2012, I've had this yearly tradition of rereading all the manga, because I own all the omnibuses, because it's my favourite anime and manga, and I don't know, I haven't had time to reread it this year, because usually I do it during the summer where it's nice and hot, and I just spend like 2 weeks where I just read it and I disappear from the world for 2 weeks and I just read it straight. But I haven't had time to do that this year, so maybe this is the year that my tradition will get broken. I don't know. But yeah, I actually have like an Inuyasha fanfic. It's sort of a fanfic. It's kind of a bunch of my own characters that kind of fit in, and it's all kind of based around Inuyasha's daughter, Inuyasha and Kagome's daughter, called Shiana, and it's spelt with an S, and she goes by She for short. And anyway, she looks more, even though she's only a quarter demon, she looks a lot more demon than Inuyasha. And in the story, when her childhood friend gets kind of kidnapped by spider demons and they all think he's been eaten and he's dead, the villagers turn on her and insist that if she's going to live with humans, she should look human, and they kind of mutilate her and cut off her tail and try and cut off her ears to make her look more human. And Inuyasha doesn't get there in time to save her from all this horrible nastiness that happens, so she ends up like running away, and she ends up finding Sesshomaru, and she doesn't know that he's her uncle, and she ends up kind of wanting to learn from him and be a stronger person. And it's quite cool. And eventually there's like time travel, and she goes back and she meets her grandparents, and she kind of starts learning to trust humans a bit more, and eventually she ends up meeting like her parents, like Kagome and Inuyasha, in the past when they're during the battle with like Naruto. And yeah, it's kind of, yeah, I don't know, time travel-y. And then she eventually kind of learns that, you know, humans aren't that bad. Some of them are terrible, and she ends up settling in like this snowy mountain village. Yeah, so, and which is kind of inhabited by the descendants of this rabbit demon. And yeah, and they're like the village protectors and stuff, and she kind of, yeah, feels like she's more at home. And I've got lots of like characters that kind of fit into the Inuyasha story, and there's some dog demons, fire dog demons of the east called Kalana and Kaleem. They're like twins, and they're quite cute. So maybe I should do a picture of them one day to show people. But yeah, so after I'd finished like doing the main colouring, I off camera I added in a few white highlights into the hair, just to make it kind of pop out a little bit. And yeah, that's kind of more or less everything I have to say about the picture. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys all soon. Bye!